A cordial good afternoon to all. QRC community, welcome. My name is Nicole Salvador, and it is indeed my pleasure, on behalf of the PTA executive, to host this afternoon's meeting. Today, we sit and chat with our principal, Mr. David Simon, where we will discuss matters that concern our QRC community. We will make every effort to give answers to the many questions I'm sure everyone has concerning the opening of physical school and the college's approach and policies. We are in a safe virtual space where mutual ideas, observations, and opinions are shared and respected. We also see this space as kind, considerate, and equitable. To ensure we make efficient use of our time, I will quickly run through how this session will proceed. Some parents have submitted questions to the PTA via our anonymous Google form prior to today's session. These questions were submitted to the college administration, and these will be addressed by the principal first. Then, we will take questions posted by parents in the live chat. Parents are asked to post questions that the college administration is capable of addressing. Once all questions have been answered, we will then bring this session to a close. We will now commence this afternoon's session. Mr. Simon, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to the entire QRC community, to all of the parents and well-wishers. Very special good afternoon, and of course to the young men, the young Royalians, Forms 3, 2, and a very special good afternoon to all of the Form 1 students. I know you are exceedingly excited.
As always, we do appreciate your time to sit and chat. So let's start with feedback from the questions pre-submitted.
Okay, so what I always like to do is to take the parents, of course, first and foremost, through a sort of virtual journey here as to what is going to happen when their sons or guardians report to Queen's Royal College. So I'm going to attempt to do that, and then certainly we are going to go through the many questions that individuals will have. So the first thing I want to indicate to many of the parents here this afternoon is that for you, some of you, that is, because some of you already have young men who are in the upper school. We have parents with several of their sons attending Queen's Royal College. But the majority of you this afternoon, you are going to be hearing things that are new to you. But I want you to hold on to the fact that it's not new to us at Queen's Royal College, since we would have been entertaining our students returning to physical classes, face-to-face classes, since October of last year. So that many of the things that you may be wondering in terms of the protocol and the safety protocol, etc., we have been safely executing since last year. So that some of the questions that were posed, as I said, they were questions that certainly you may have, but the school has been, if I may say so myself, very adeptly dealing with over a period of time. So I want to walk us through entering the compound, and like any other compound in Trinidad and Tobago during this pandemic, there are the safety protocols which must be adhered to. Students coming onto the compound must wear their masks, and I'm not going to say anything about the masks until I come to the uniforms, right? Must wear their masks. Their temperature is going to be taken at the gate. They are going to be then asked to wash their hands at the stations that are provided to the front of the school. and then they will proceed to their general areas. Now on the 7th, because we have Form 1s who are coming into the school who really only came for a one-day visit, so to speak, we will have individuals there who will usher them to their particular areas. Even the Form 2s are not very familiar with the school. So we are going to have some of our prefects there awaiting them, the deans. There'll be a welcoming party on that day, taking them to their physical spaces. Now to third formers, they will have a far better idea of the school because they would have been here for a while. But all of the safety protocol is going to be practiced. We will be asking our students, and we ask our parents, to continue to speak to our young men about those practices which are well known now. They're well articulated throughout Trinidad and Tobago in the press. So we're going to be asking individuals, of course, to do that. We're very realistic at Queen's Royal College, and we recognize that first, second, and third formers, especially our first formers, second formers, they may present a greater challenge in terms of congregating and being asked to follow these very unnatural practices for human beings. Therefore, we are going to be utilizing our deans, our prefects, and all of the adult personnel on the school to assist us insofar as this aspect is concerned. When they go through this, the bell goes, they meet whoever they have to meet, they're going to go into their classes, and their classes are going to be set out as is mandated, with the 3 feet apart, so that the social distancing is going to take place in the classroom. All right, so in terms of the entrance, how they come in, that is going to be set, and we expect that that is going to be followed according to the guidelines. Uniform. Individuals are asking, of course, how do we dress to come to school? Right now, you will be allowed to come to school with the QRC polo and a khaki pants, black shoes. For our Form 1s and our Form 2s, we are also going to allow them to be able to wear their PE jerseys. So I want to repeat that. For the Form 1s and the Form 2s, they can wear their polos, their regular school shirt, or their PE jerseys. Now the third formers is a different thing, because they should have their polos. So their uniform will be either the school shirt or the polos. This is going to be the mode of dress until next term. By next term, every student must report to school in their regular blue QRC shirt and their khaki pants, with no modifications to the sneakers. Let me just deal with the footwear. Footwear is going to be black. That is what we expect. If there are any variations to that because of special circumstances, then an excuse must be presented to your son, which will be given to the form teacher and will reside with the administration with a proposed date as to when the footwear is going to be regularized in accordance with the school uniform. So in terms of the uniform, I'll quickly go over that. We're going to take things very slow so that individuals can understand, and then if there are further questions, you'll be able to pose those questions. So we are saying again that our third formers, you are allowed to wear your polo jersey or your regular school shirt. Of course, the preferred mode of dress is the regular school shirt. For our first and second formers, and our first and second formers only, they will have the option of using their PE jerseys, the polo, and or their school shirts. The reason behind this is that when some of our first and second formers came, there were issues in terms of the sizes for the polos. Some of them they were able to fit with the P shirts, so that we felt in order to accommodate that, we would allow our first and second formers only the use of the PE shirts. Okay? So in terms of the uniform, that is how we are going to go. Now, I want to deal with something right away. I am fully aware that the Ministry of Education would have put out a very detailed document known as the Guidelines for the Reopening of Schools, and the most recent one is Phase 3. And that document would have spoken about modifications to uniforms and that sort of thing. I want to suggest to our parents, though, that your sons are attending Queen's Royal College. And I want to point out that the media seems to have a love affair with Queen's Royal College. There were throughout the past 4 to 5 months, there were a number of stories running through the media about the reopening of schools, etc. And almost on every single occasion, pictures of either the college or students of the college were used. I think that says that we have a greater responsibility in terms of ensuring that our students are properly attired at all times. And I am very happy to say that on all of the occasions that our young men were pictured strolling through Port of Spain or whatever, they were properly attired. That means that QRC is going to hold our student population to a higher standard than most. I think that is why you wanted your sons at Queen's Royal College in the first place. Therefore, my expectation is that the way in which we attire ourselves to come to school is going to be of a standard that is going to be able to represent the 150 plus years of pride that is Queen's Royal College. And that is why, as principal, I am sticking to that black shoe that we are asking for, and if there are any special considerations, that will have to be done in writing to the school's administration with a proposed date as to when that particular situation is going to be remedied. Let me then deal with, since we are in uniform and our mode of dress, let me just deal with our overall deportment. And here we speak particularly about hairstyle. I want to state clearly that school is not a fashion show. So our students are not coming here to express the fashion side of their being. There's going to be a lot of opportunity. I think there are going to be lots of opportunities for them to so do. Therefore, the rules and the regulations of the college apply. Students are not allowed to come to school with plaited hairstyles, cornrows, cane rows, hairs in buns. Those are clearly outlined in our rule book, and that will not be tolerated at all, at any cost. Our students are going to be expected to abide by all of the rules of the college. A pandemic does not mean confusion, mayhem, and a lack of discipline. Therefore, our expectation is going to be that our rules and regulations are going to be adhered to, and in the odd situation when we find that circumstances may make certain aspects of the adherence to those rules a little difficult, a full-scale explanation will be required from the parents. So I just want to deal with that, because I know in some of the questions, there are a lot of questions about the hairstyle, etc. Some hairstyles would have been quite acceptable while they were behind the camera. As of next week, Monday, they are not going to be behind a camera in a bedroom or a living room, etc. They're going to be coming to school wearing their QRC uniform, advertising to the world that they are Royalians. They are Royalians posted all over the world, and when they look on, they would want to see their fellow Royalians represent them with a certain degree of quality and pride. And that is the expectation of the administration of Queen's Royal College. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. I think maybe we can pause here before I get into how we are going to operate, and if there are any questions dealing with the protocols and uniforms, etc., I can take those.
So let's deal with the hair and the uniform section. What uniform is required and when or where can it be purchased? The what uniform was explained, so when and where can it be purchased?
Okay, so our uniforms are carried at Bradford's, all Bradford's outlets, so you will be able to get them at all Bradford's outlets, and at the school as well. We do sell the polos, the PE jerseys, and the school shirts. We don't sell the school pants there. I deliberately didn't say anything about the dress uniform because we're going to hold on the dress uniform certainly until next term. No students are going to be expected to wear their dress uniforms for this entire term. I have a running relationship with my management group, so if you see me watching at my phone, they have been mandated to be my backup in case I forget anything. And one of the things I did forget is the ID cards. ID card is part of the uniform. For our third formers, they should be all right. Everyone should have those. For our first and second formers, let me deal with that right away. When you come out to school, and I'll tell you when you come out and how you come out. When you come out to school, the matter of the ID cards will be dealt with. You will be issued your ID cards on your first day out to school. So ID cards will be issued to our first and second formers between the 7th and the 8th of February.
There's just one question in particular about a hairstyle. So I'm going to read from the parents' comments. With regards to the boys having a well-groomed hair, my son has a high top fade. It's trimmed on both sides and hair on the top. His fade is not that high, but he wants to grow it out a bit more. Should I have him cut it? Or is it okay for him to have it once it's well groomed?
I will advise that parent to take a look at our rule book, the part that deals with haircuts or hairstyles, because the rule book clearly states that the hairstyle should be traditional. It should not be any of those fancy GQ hairstyles. I don't know exactly what a son looks like, but the hairstyle looks like. But certainly, if she or he reads the rule book as a parent, they would have a fair idea of what is expected. Let me just deal with the issue of length. We have no issues with length. We have individuals of different ethnic backgrounds, and the length of the hair is not an issue. What must happen is that the hair must be properly groomed. And I know there is a whole argument outside there about what is proper grooming and that sort of thing. Proper grooming in Queen's Royal College will be what we say proper grooming is. All right? Because the rules that we have put in place will be determined by the college's staff and administration. So I know that many of the youngsters have a practice of not combing their hair. That is not acceptable. All right? I have had to speak to a number of young men who come here, their hair uncombed. You see all sorts of things from their hair. You have a fair idea of what type of bed they're sleeping on from looking at their hair. That is not acceptable. All right? So the length is fine, and if it's high, it is properly groomed, we don't have an issue where that is concerned. And the issue of individuals who we may consider as Douglas in our society as well, who have curly hair, that is a non-issue. That is a non-issue. The important issue is that the hair is supposed to be neat, properly groomed.
That's the only open question for shoes and uniforms, so you can proceed with any other item.
Okay, so what we are going to do, what I'm going to get into now, will be the conduct of our everyday classes. So, as I said, and let me begin on the 7th and the 8th, we are going to begin. So our first, second, and third formers will return to school. And I'm going to simply outline how we are going to conduct our everyday classes. So we plan to continue our blended rotation, as I explained when we were doing our 4th, 5th, and 6th formers returning. What is this? Teachers will report to school once they have timetabled classes. Our students are going to report to school according to a side A and a side B. This is what applies right now. So we are going to be using we are going to be using the same system that we have in place. And what we have is a side A and a side B. So I'm simply going to take one class and use it as an example. 1R is going to be divided into a side A and a side B. We are going to provide that information through our network using the PTA and using the core groups, etc. So you will know which side your son is going to be. It is not done according, let's say, to A to J or anything like that. We go into each class and we split each class in half, A and B, according to the surnames in each class. So it is very, very carefully and deliberately done. Side A then reports to school for an 8-day cycle. So side A of 1R is going to report to school for 8 consecutive days. Side B will be home doing all of their classes online. And I want to pause here to say thank you to the staff of Queen's Royal College, because I want to clearly outline that the guidelines which were put out there indicate that teachers are not required to teach those who are at home. So I really want to acknowledge the staff of Queen's Royal College for the wonderful job that they continue to do. I know sometimes as teachers we come in for quite a lot of flack. Not many individuals take the time out to credit teachers for the wonderful job that they're doing. But I want to credit my staff for the wonderful job that they continue to do, because that aspect they can choose not to. Getting back on track then, so 1R side A is going to come out for 8 consecutive days, side B will be home for 8 consecutive days, and then we switch. So side B then reports to school and side A will do their classes online. Now this is the system we have right now, so that we are simply going to be splitting our entire school population, perhaps except the lower sixers, but that doesn't really concern this group. We're going to be splitting our school in half, side A and side B. Side A is going to report again, as I said, we are keeping the same timetable that they are accustomed to. So it's going to be an 8-day cycle with 6 periods per day. Side A will report to school. Side B is at home. When side B reports to school, side A is at home. Right? I know that is a lot to internalize for some of you who it is being said for the first time. So I'm going to go over that aspect. So using 1 hour again as an example, 1 hour is our example. 1 hour is going to be split in half, side A and side B. Side A is going to report to class. Side B is going to be home. Side A then will be out for 8 consecutive days using the very same timetable that we have. Side B is going to be at home using the same timetable, doing all their classes virtually. Once that 8-day cycle comes to an end and we start at day 1 again, side B is then going to come out physically to classes and side A is going to remain at home. All right, I think that should have settled, and all of our parents should have digested that in terms of how we are going to operate. Now, let me just deal with some of the questions that I got with the upper school, and we clarified, and I know I saw one of them as when I perused the questions. Side A and side B, if your son falls into side A, your son is not going to be put into side B because you have a particular transport arrangement and you want that to be done. The only way we are going to consider a child being moved to a particular side is if that child is a biological child living with a parent with a different surname. So sometimes you may have 2 sons and they have different surnames, but they're coming from the same home. We think it makes sense that if that parent is bringing one sibling, that the other sibling, despite the fact that that sibling may have a different surname, that may have placed them in a different half of the class, we are going to make that adjustment. But that is the only way that is going to happen. And I hope that parents understand that once as a school we open the possibilities for special arrangements, it means therefore it's going to skew the whole numbers game. And the numbers game is the safety game, because we have to keep those numbers intact and in accordance to the guidelines laid out by firstly the Ministry of Health and then of course by the Ministry of Education. So that is very important in terms of how we operate. All right, so in terms of how we operate the operations, that is how it is going to be done very simply. All right, our wireless system is going to be thoroughly tested now, because before we operated with half of the school out. Now we will be operating with forms 1 through 6, though it's going to be half of the school out. But the requirement on the wireless system is going to be tested now. We will certainly be able to see how it works, because remember we would have done over this wireless system. Thus far it has worked wonderfully well, and we feel confident that it is going to with the increased workload. However, we already putting things in place in case we recognize that there are a couple glitches in certain geographical areas of the school. We have a plan as to how to approach that. Really, opening and the conduct of our everyday classes, is everything perfect? Far from. We continue to have infrastructural issues. So those of our students and that will be the upper school now going back to the prefab areas. We continue to have AC problems with those areas, even sometimes at the West Block. And these are the challenges that we continue to face. However, we have been plugging along day by day, and we have been doing so quite successfully, and I see no reason to doubt that we will be able to repeat that type of success as we welcome our first, second, and third formers out. There were questions about the space in the classrooms. This is why we're splitting the school population in half, so that we will be able to meet that particular requirement. Our Form 1 classes, just so that the Form 1 know, they are the largest classrooms and classes in the school, where we have about 40 individuals, but we will be able to accommodate about 20 individuals in those rooms very comfortably, whereas that number drops to about 15 or 16 for our second and third formers. All right? I want to point out here, though, that the issue of when you come out to school, parents, you need to be in constant contact with the school. We are going to go through a period where we are going to do our mock exams for our CSEC and CAPE students. Those are our 5th and 6th formers. There are going to be times then, let's say when we do mathematics, with our entire 5th form, that is going to mean 100 and something boys from the 5th form out on a particular day to do that mock exam. On that day, we are going to say to the school population which group will not be attending school. So it's very possible that when we have mathematics and when we have English, that we may be saying that the lower school, the entire lower school, is going to be conducting classes on this day and that day online. So parents need to be en courant, living with the PTA, getting the information, because we use the PTA to send out the information as it applies to how we operate on a daily basis. And I think that point needs to be made. Let me just, I know that I'm seeing sent to me through the management group there, individuals asking about the QRC masks. Let me deal with that now. Queen's Royal College is a law-abiding institution. We are not a rogue institution. So I want to be very careful about what I say. We are committed to ensuring that people's constitutional rights are not trampled on. So individuals have asked if students will be allowed to use the KN95 mask. Most definitely, if you as a parent believe that for the safety of your child, the KN95 mask, which has been clearly identified, it is said, as perhaps the safest mask to use, and you have a concern about a cloth mask being used and you prefer this, then all you have to do is to write a note which is going to be lodged, as I said, with the college's administration, through the deans, whoever, so that we are aware what the situation is. However, if you are using the regular cloth mask, it must be a QRC mask. Now, the QRC mask is a part of the uniform. All right? There are individuals, and there are individuals coming to school right now with some of the lighter blue masks. We've had individuals produce medical explanations. Some individuals suffer with asthma, etc. They prefer to have the use of other masks. That is going to be facilitated, right? What we are not going to encourage and tolerate is that you are coming to school with any cloth mask. If you're using a cloth mask at all, it must be the QRC mask. The QRC mask is the uniform, and if you're using any alteration to that, it must come with a note from your parents. All right, and that is it simply.
As we're on the topic of masks, two questions that stand out are: will the students have to double mask if they choose?
The choice to double mask is not mine. That is a personal choice, and that is one to be exercised by the parent of the child. And if a child, we have a number of boys who come and they double mask right now. If they're double masking though, and some of them they double mask with some of the lighter, the blue or the white masks with their QRC mask, and the QRC mask will be the one on top. That will be the one that they wear on top. But the choice to double mask, of course, again, it's a constitutional right of a parent to be able to have their children double masked if they so desire. We are not going to stop that.
Another one: can students wear a face shield with their mask?
That they're not allowed to wear a face shield alone, but they can wear the mask and the face shield.
In respect to the classes, just to be accurate, what we are seeing is that for forms 1 to form 6, side A will come out for that 8-day cycle. Yes or no?
If you mean when we begin? Oh, well, when we begin, when we actually start, I think we are going to have side, and let me just deal with that. We're going to actually have, on Monday, we will be bringing out side A and side B. So on Monday, side A is going to come out. So side A in forms 1, 2, and 3 will come out on Monday, the 7th. They will not report to school on Tuesday. On Tuesday, side B will come out, and they continue until the end of their cycle. All right? In other words, they will join the cycle already in progress. So side B will only come out for a couple of days, and then they are going to stop when the 8-day cycle ends. And then side A will come out for their 8 days, and side B will then come out for their 8 days, and so on. But we will convey that. But the idea is there's a cycle already in progress. But we want to meet with everyone in the first 2 days. So on Monday the 7th, all individuals from side A will report to school. And that's what we did when we did the upper school, if you could remember. All individuals from side A reported on the first day of school. All individuals from side B reported on the second day. Now it is working out perfectly in that side B, when they come out on the second day, they will just continue for a couple of days to end their cycle, and then we will begin with side A starting from day 1 with the cycle that is already in progress throughout the school. In terms of the timetable, as I said, we use the same timetable. We know the same time that you are starting your start time for your digital classes, it's the same start time and end time for school. All right, so those times that you're expected to be with your form teachers and you begin school, those are the times that you will be expected to be at school.
Now, some parents would have had children come from Form 1, well, 2 or more students. So a question is posed: do all classrooms have an adequate amount of funds, and will donations be accepted for the Form 1 block?
Well, let me first deal with donations part. Donations will always be readily accepted at Queen's Royal College, and we do need as many donations as possible. In terms of funds, our Form 1s are outfitted with fans. The Form 1 areas actually, ironically, are the coolest areas. Those are the largest classrooms with the tallest ceiling spaces, and while we do have a little issue always with the sun very early in the morning because of where it comes and how it shoots into the classroom, so the doors on the eastern end of the Form 1 classes usually have to be pulled in. But by mid-morning, that is no longer a problem, and the Form 1 classes, ironically, are perhaps the coolest spaces in the entire school. The second, and throughout the other spaces, We have AC. Not that I can boast that the AC is of the best quality, because we do struggle with sometimes the units giving some problems, but we are working with it, and we will entertain certainly large donations to be able to deal with these issues.
The category of devices. A question. What provision is being made for the boys to charge their devices? A fully charged device will only last an hour or two max. This will not carry them through the day, especially if they'll be using it for every class. I'm also concerned about its safety and security.
Okay, so the issue of provision of the spaces, the areas to have your devices charged, that cannot happen in QRC. And I don't know which school will be in Trinidad and Tobago will be able to safely allow for individuals to charge their devices. What we have encouraged is that our students sort of move between their cell phones and their laptops. We also know that there are the personal charging ports that we encourage some of the parents. Those would have been wonderful Christmas gifts instead of some of the other expensive gifts that we made. Those may have been great Christmas gifts, understanding that we would be reaching this particular point, so that they will be able to do that, ensuring that the devices are charged overnight all the time, and in the couple instances that it fails, the use of the cell phone as a smart device in the class also works. All right, so this is something that has to be factored in. In terms of safety, we have had our 4th, 5th, and 6th formers come out thus far, and we've had no issues. In fact, on one instance, we had a young man who left his laptop, and the laptop was recovered. Safety has a number of dimensions to it, and one of it is personal responsibility. And this is something that we want to treat with our young men, because if you have your laptop is not to be left any and everywhere. If, of course, unfortunately, we have a situation where that happens, where a laptop is stolen, and really in QRC I'm saying that has not been the case, but it will be dealt with by the college's administration, and that would be seen as a police matter. One of our students stealing a laptop, that's a police matter. As I said, we are a law-abiding institution. We are about the development of all aspects of our young men, and getting our young men to understand that there are consequences to their actions. So something like that not only is an administrative issue, but that's a police matter. And the college will not hesitate in bringing all of the agencies that are needed to help us solve something like that if it occurs.
So therefore, would students be required to walk with their laptops to school?
Yeah. This is something that we have encouraged, because remember, when they are actually there, sometimes it helps with the laptops in engaging their peers who are at home. All right, so there are different dimensions to the blended learning, so it does help. So it is something that we will encourage. Yeah, if it is that the parent feels, however, that shouldn't be the case, then fine. But certainly, this pandemic has proven to us as a nation how far behind we are in terms of education and health and those sorts of things. So a question as to in Japan and in Sweden as to if a device should be brought to school, that is a question that you will not hear being asked. And we must be able to reach that particular point. Those devices we have recognized are learning tools, And this is how this particular generation learns.
And what if a parent wants to provide surge protectors for the classrooms with limited outlets?
The provision of the provision of surge protectors that only deals with one aspect, right? The aspect of the load is what is important. We are one of the oldest schools in Trinidad and Tobago, and our electrical system then is totally antiquated. So you can have as many surge protectors in a room, but if the load is not going to be able to facilitate it, then your surge protectors ironically will be causing a fire.
A question on the classroom. What will be the seating arrangements for the boys? Will they be assigned a specific chair and desk for the days when they attend school? Or are they expected to sit anywhere when they arrive in class?
I certainly had to take a laugh before answering that question, because I don't know that boys are just allowed to sit anywhere, even from primary school. So I think maybe that parent was just having some fun.
And just a few questions on some comments from parents. Scenario 1. My son is opposed to returning to school. His anxiety is at an all-time high. Given the fact that he has ADHD and is on the autism spectrum, he takes worrying to an entirely different level. Is there to be anything in place for students who are totally resistant to returning to physical classes? If so, what are they?
Okay, so a parent like this needs to contact the form teacher immediately so that we are aware of what the situation is. Certainly we will have our guidance officer enter into that conversation, because that is a conversation that will have to be had at different levels. But we are very mindful of this, and we are going to try our very best to see how we can facilitate such a student in light of the deeper issues that would need to be confronted here. So this is not something that we will say, no, it's not allowed. Queen's Royal College, as we operate, our philosophy is to leave absolutely no one behind. So any such child dealing with those fears and mental issues or anything, we take them very seriously and we deal with them on an individual basis, guided by professional advice.
Scenario 2. My son does not want to attend face-to-face classes. He is afraid of contracting COVID with the Omicron variant, being highly contagious. He is willing to do face-to-face in order to do labs and practicals. Is this possible? He is not vaccinated and does not want to be.
Again, that is a situation that would need to be examined. However, I do want to say that as parents, we have to be very, very careful in terms of understanding what the laws of our land are, because parents must recognize that if there are issues, as a parent, you are entitled to deal with these issues in the best interest of your child and your household. However, you need to understand as well what your obligations are as a parent, because education is supposed to be provided for all. Now, we are lucky in QRC in that, as I said, many of our teachers still operate in that we are engaging a child that may be at home. The guidelines clearly indicate that teachers are not obligated to so do. So a parent making that choice in a different scenario could be faced with a child that is being untaught and that is illegal in our country. So that is the battle that is not only taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, it's taking place on a worldwide scale. But parents need to be aware of the laws, the rules, etc., and as it applies to them. All right, these legal ramifications are things as parents we should ensure that we are in the know about.
And scenario 3. My son suffers from acute sinusitis. He sneezes a lot, especially when wearing his mask on for an extensive period of time. How do we approach a student with flu-like symptoms but is not actually sick? Will they be required to stay at home, or will an exception be made?
Okay, so that is a very good and a very difficult question that I would certainly need to raise with the district medical team to be guided, because what is clear is that if you are displaying flu-like symptoms, and I'm glad that this came up so that I can remind parents that once your sons are displaying flu-like symptoms, they should be kept at home. So naturally, that would apply to this particular student. If there's a medical condition, I think the school will then need to be made aware of it, what are the symptoms and how we deal with that, because the challenge for us, and certainly me as an administrator, would be how do I know when it is that particular condition or a condition that places all of the other individuals you will be close to in danger. So this is not a simple question. This is a question that I would need to be guided by the medical personnel on this. I'll take this opportunity as well just to talk about the school feeding program and transportation. Number of individuals have been asking about transportation. Transportation is usually provided through the Ministry of Education by PTSE. So we have buses that QRC has not had a resumption of our transport system as yet, and I don't see that happening by Monday. But usually we have 2 buses, though we have asked about the possibility of one coming from Central as well. We haven't received any feedback on that, but we have a bus usually that comes from San Randy and one from Arima, but those have not been in operation since we've started back in October. School feeding program, that is in operation, and we have been able to provide both breakfast and lunch. We have increased our numbers in terms of what we are asking for with the expected arrival of our first, second, and third form. So we expect that that is going to take place. Co-curricular activities, individuals have been asking about that. They have not started back as we know it as yet. We await the instruction from the Ministry of Education, guided by the Ministry of Health, as to when we start those again. All right, but there are certain activities clearly guided by our PE teachers which are allowed, which allows for social distancing and that sort of thing. When our students come back out on Monday and Tuesday, side A on Monday, I'm repeating again, side B on Tuesday, they are not coming out to do classes. We have an entire program planned for them. And I want to take this opportunity to say to everybody who's listening that the process that is required for our young men is a very, very crucial process. That process of having them learn how to socialize again is something that we're taking for granted, I think, within our education system. We have to remember that our second form, those individuals who are coming out into second form, say in Queen's Royal College, these individuals have been behind a computer since their SEA program. So they have missed their entire first year in Queen's Royal College. They have no idea as to how QRC operates as a school, what is the norm, what are our norms, what is the culture of the school, what is the philosophy of Queen's Royal College. Though we have spoken to them about it, speaking is totally different from living it. We have to recreate the possibilities for them to live the QRC life and to understand what education is all about, not just certification coming out to do these classes. So those first couple of days are very important, and I am very happy for the young men. People have asked me, how do I feel about them coming back out? I'm ecstatic. They have to live, and what we have been doing to them for the past year and a half, I shudder to think as to what are going to be some of the long-term effects of what has happened to members of this generation.
Do you want to elaborate a bit on the cafeteria?
Okay, well, the cafeteria is going to be open. The cafeteria operators are out. For our lower school, when we begin, we will allow them a 10-minute period before the upper school is dismissed for them to be able to access the cafeteria and perhaps the other space in the school where they can get refreshments. But there's nothing really to say much about the cafeteria because it's in full operation. And as the numbers increase, usually with the numbers by about lunchtime, after lunch they close, but as the numbers increase, they will increase their hours that they are here.
A question on the cafeteria. Would break and lunch periods be staggered?
Yeah, well, I think I just explained that the lower school, we are simply going to allow them a 10-minute before, and we'll explain all of these things to our young men when they come out. They are going to be allowed to out of their classes. We are not modifying it in any way in terms of they coming back earlier to lunch. They will just have that 10 minutes extra, especially our Form 1s that we know and our Form 2s that we know we have to walk through the process. Because, for example, our Form 1s, they operate in the main building, which is this building we are speaking from now. And they have their bathrooms, everything. So they are encouraged to use the space, not share the space with the bigger boys and that sort of thing. As I was saying, all of that is part of the culture of the school that we will have to get them to understand. But our first form, second form, third form deans, there are a number of things planned. Mrs. Fiona Gosine, our first form dean, our second form dean, Mrs. Natasha Lewis dos Santos, and our third form dean, Ms. Renee Thomas. There are a number of events that we have planned, incorporating the use of our prefects, incorporating the use of our form teachers, even me as a QRC old boy and part of the admin in terms of how we get our young men to understand and to re-emerge from the cocoon that many of them may have been in behind those computers.
For a Form 1 parent, where could they channel the information on the process to apply for transport from the East and the school feeding program?
Okay, so as I explained, when they come out, we tend to get an idea from where individuals are living and what their financial situation may be, and then we look at the availability of spaces on the maxi. Remember, we only have one maxi coming from Arima, one from Sani Grande. So that is always a problem. We tend to, of course, prioritize our younger students once we are aware. The meals, once they come, we have the meals that are brought, and once they are here, they have access to the meals.
The other category up is vaccinations.
Well, I don't know what I have to say on vaccinations. There's nothing for me to say on vaccinations. That the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education has indicated that all students are allowed to come to school. So I am not aware that I am in a position to speak about vaccinations. I await any further instructions from our Prime Minister and our CMO.
In terms of vaccinations, there's two scenarios. The first one, if your child's family member or the child has contracted COVID and has to self-isolate for an extended period at home, is there a provision for the child to virtually attend class?
Yes, simple. Any child that is at home because of the COVID protocol, will be allowed to access their classes online. Let me just deal with that whole issue. I want to remind parents that it's your responsibility to know that if your child has come into contact with someone who has COVID or a secondary source, there are certain things that need to be done. If your child has come into someone, a primary contact, then that person has to quarantine just as the person who has COVID. Right? So anybody in the household having COVID, that child is not supposed to be in school. If it is as a result of a secondary contact, we get that information. I send that information to the medical team for our region, and they then advise me as to what happens. They will then, what usually happens is that we give out the numbers of which we have to do. They interview parent and child, and then they would say to the parent, yes, he could report to school, or no, he needs to self-isolate for a certain period. But the responsibility is on the parent and the family to not put other individuals at risk. And this is a very serious responsibility, something that I want to stress. If you know that your child is feeling unwell, do not send the child to school. Because once he reaches the school, we will then isolate the child. Once we see a child that is sneezing and that's showing flu-like symptoms, and we will call you immediately to come.
So here's a compilation of that question. A child has tested positive for COVID-19. What is the school's response? Will the entire class be notified and quarantined? How soon after the child tests positive will the class be allowed to return back to school? Will all classmates be required to get tested and provide test results prior to the return to school?
The answer to that is very simple. The school is going to be guided by the medical personnel as to what we need to do. Once a child tests positive, and that we are aware as principal, there are certain steps that I must take. I must inform my school supervisor, I must inform that district medical team, provide all of the information as to the possible contacts that child would have come into contact with while at school, and then we, the district medical team, will advise me as to what will happen, whether the regular sanitization process is sufficient, whether we need to have the school shut down and do a deep sanitization. Those are not decisions made by a principal. Those are decisions made by medical personnel, and we will then carry out the directives given to us. I want to take this opportunity just is guiding me. So individuals from the Form 1, all parents, you will get a notification from the dean about a meeting that you have on Friday evening. So you will certainly get that information via the PTA and the core group, but I'm just informing all Form 1 parents and students, you will have a chat with your dean on Friday afternoon.
A question. A child and parent who chooses online school and does not want to attend physical school, can the child continue to receive online or asynchronous classes? Would this be accommodated, or would the child be marked absent?
Again, that is a discussion that will have to take place between the school and the parent, and then we will make a decision. Remember, again, as I said, a child that is supposed to be in school, physically in school, insofar as the government of Trinidad and Tobago is concerned, and insofar as the school is concerned, that child is absent if he's not in school, and there is not a discussion that would have taken place between the home, the parent, and the college's administration. That is important. We need to know what the special circumstance is, and therefore then we will be able to make decisions. I do not know that parents are always aware of the responsibility. So I am going to suggest that a child who is supposed to be in school is directly under my care. I am responsible legally for that child. If that child is at home, and let's just say a parent leaves to go and do something and something happens to that child in that home, there are questions I must answer as a principal. So I think sometimes that parents take it for granted, and that is why I said it is important that you understand the legal ramifications. That child is supposed to be under my care during that time. Therefore, the Ministry of Education is going to pose a number of questions to me as a principal as to why was that child not in school. And if the child was not in school without proper documentation of the process as to why that child is at home, I can be held liable.
We move along to the category of finances. In light of the financial strain that many parents are experiencing at this time as a direct result of the pandemic, is it possible to waive the wearing of the school's printed mask and allow the students to wear black, dark blue masks, or families who cannot purchase uniforms? What is in place for such assistance?
Well, I'm a bit confused because to me, cloth masks are more designed for individuals like me who belong to the poorer class, because a cloth mask which can be washed and reused certainly is not going to cost me as much as a mask that I am buying at a retail outlet and changing every single day. So to me, that question doesn't really add up in terms of when we look at the economics. The aspect of what was the second part of the question?
Parents who are unable to purchase school uniforms.
Okay, again, the philosophy of Queen's Royal College is that we always reach out and assist our parents where it is possible. So again, this is something that would need to be communicated with the dean, the form teacher, and then understanding the specifics of the situation. The school is going to see how best we can use the resources at our disposal to assist any such parent and child.
We're almost there, almost finished. We move on to the category of academics. What was the criteria used to place the boys into the 4 classes in Form 1? And why wasn't the information showing the percentage averages and performance levels of the 4 classes, as seen in the Form 3 meeting last week, shown to parents before now?
That question, we're talking about Form 1s here?
This is Form 3 parent.
Asking about why was the information only shown in the Form 3 meeting?
Correct.
Because there's a particular schedule that the school has. The school runs according to the schedule that is laid out by the teachers and the administration. So I don't know that a parent could dictate to us as to when that is going to be done. That is all part of a particular procedure. You know, I want to say something here. It always strikes me that when we go to the doctors, we sit and we listen to what the doctors have to say. When the accountant comes in and he does his audit, we listen. But everyone believes, without any training, that they know how to run a school, what to do in a particular classroom, as if the teacher is untrained, not necessarily knowing what he or she is doing. I assure you that the majority of our professionals in education are well trained, so that there is the reason for the timing, etc., as to what would have been explained in those meetings and when the next meeting is going to take place, all linked to the process of subject choices and that sort of thing. So there is a system behind what may appear to some as madness.
Another question. My son is in Form 3. Why isn't principles of accounts offered in Form 3 to students so they'll have a better idea when selecting subjects for Form 4?
These questions I'm not prepared to answer, because these questions are straying away from the purpose of this meeting. And that question, say for example, it shows a total lack of understanding of the education system. There is no POA between Forms 1 to 3 to offer, so we can't offer something that doesn't exist. Those are questions that I would prefer be dealt with at the various subject levels, so that, for example, that's a third form parent asking that when we sit and meet for the third form meetings. I don't think that I want to subject, say, like my Form 1 parents and my Form 2 parents who are listening now to something that has no bearing on why we're here this afternoon. So I'd prefer to defer those questions to our specific meetings. If we could keep the questions linked to the reopening, I would prefer that. It's almost 7 o'clock.
And a parent has a concern. What about the older boys bullying the younger ones into taking their devices?
And that's a good question. It's a fair question, but as I think I answered that already by saying that these parents would not have a clue as to the culture of Queen's Royal College. QRC by no means is a perfect institution. We have our fair share of boys who steal stuff and that sort of thing, but QRC is not the place where boys bully someone and take a laptop. Right? That doesn't happen in QRC.
So that concludes the end of the preempted questions. We now open the floor for any online questions. I see one question. Mr. Simon, how frequently will classes be sanitized?
Very good question. Classes are sanitized before school begins and at all breaks, so that when the boys have their first 2 periods, they have break. The classes are then sanitized by the MTS janitors, and then they come back into their classrooms after break. They have 2 more periods and then they go off to lunch. The classrooms are sanitized during the lunch hour again, and then, well, they would have their last 2, and the classrooms would be sanitized very early in the morning before they begin their classes.
Okay, the PTA executives are also assisting behind the scenes to assist with any questions on the live chat, and we aren't seeing any other further questions, so we just allow for 1 more minute if you may have any other additional question. Mr. Simon, a question. Will boys have to walk with devices on Monday and Tuesday, the 7th and the 8th of February?
Again, a very good question. It's not absolutely necessary, right? When they come out, their half coming out, that is not necessary for them to walk with their devices. Yeah, I know that boys usually walk with their phones, which is acceptable, but the laptops that some may be coming with, that's not necessary. And I want to remind parents as well that there's no need, if you think your son and Form 1 doesn't have to come with a laptop. He doesn't have to come with a laptop. The phone, which is a smart device, is going to suffice in the classroom, right? If, however, your son, you believe, is very adept at that and very responsible, nothing prevents that child from coming with the laptop. But on the first 2 days, it's not necessary.
What is the earliest times I can drop off my son and collect my son?
Well, I would say that at usually by about 6 o'clock, a little after 6, there's activity in Queen's Royal College. We are not, however, known to provide daycare services, so that I would suggest that the soonest that you can collect your child, it is in the best interest of his safety.
And the final question, Mrs. Simon, tell us, what is your general observation from interactions with the young men in Forms 4 to 6? What have they shared with you in dealing with the pandemic and their return to rotational classes?
I like that question that we've chosen to end with, because I think it is a question which sets the stage for the entry of our younger students. Our students were very, very happy, and they have been very happy to return to classes. Of course, we continue to have challenges, and we have individuals, as you described with one of the questions, where some individuals, some of our students, some of our parents are very apprehensive, and that is understandable. But I think that in general, our young men have displayed an understanding and a responsibility that is remarkable. I mean, only yesterday I was having a discussion with my boss, my school supervisor, who's also a parent, and who's also in this meeting listening on. And we were speaking about the fact that a son who belongs to the upper school marveled at the fact that we reached the point where a teacher is not physically in the classroom, but teaching through the use of the device, and there is no physical individual in the classroom, and the class is going on. The behavior is remarkable. I think that the pandemic has offered us as a world, but certainly here in QRC as an educational institution, the opportunity to get into the new frontier. And I think our Forms 4 to Form 6 have displayed that. They have certainly displayed that. As a school, we don't believe that the way is you're going to have success by attempting to police them. We don't have the numbers to be able to police them. What we have been encouraging through the PA system, when we do police on the occasions, is to point out to them their actions, because really what we would like to do is to allow them to be normal in the physical space, understanding what is required of them. We know that with the younger students, that is going to be more of a challenge, and we are going to have to put in place systems that are going to allow us to supervise them. But I think if I can look at what I have learned, is I have learned that there is no reason for us to not have faith in the younger generation. They will be fine, because they are continuing to display their resilience, their flexibility, and once we find ourselves in a position where, as I said to my third formers when I was speaking to them, that we, teachers, parents, we prepare them for the road, and don't attempt to prepare a road for them, I think we'll be fine. I think if we are prepared to sit back and learn from them as much as we ask them to learn from us, then the world is going to be a much better place.
We will now conclude our discussion. Mr. Simon, thank you for addressing these concerns. We know the situation is fluid and there will be questions, queries and comments. However, we look forward to the college's approach and policies. We value the efforts and commitment from the entire administration at QRC. And as an anonymous parent stated, we commend the continuous work made by all to ensure our young men are educated holistically. Mr. Simon, can we have your closing remarks?
Well, I don't think that I should say anything after that question that you asked and what I said. I simply want to, and I think maybe this is the best way to close, I want to heap really all of the praises on the staff of Queen's Royal College. And when I speak about the staff, I'm not speaking about my teaching staff alone. I'm speaking about the teaching and non-teaching, my office staff, the MTS staff, the cafeteria, all of the technicians, the librarians, everybody who have pulled together to allow us to make this place a safe place, to allow our young men to be educated. And to those who have been out, I really want to thank them as well for the responsibility and leadership that they have shown. I think we have not missed an opportunity to have our Christmas concert and so many different things. She's Royal as a program continuing. We have not allowed the pandemic to comatose us, and I think that could only have been possible because of the great staff that I have beneath my wings and my VP's wings, allowing us always to, as an institution, to soar as an eagle.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. PTA announcements. Many parents are uncertain of the SIP payment. The PTA would like to clarify what SIP is about and the contribution that is expected each term. SIP means Student Investment Plan. A member from the PTA executive will contact you in the upcoming week to clarify any concerns that you may have. Also, have you seen the limited edition hand-painted face masks from our She's Royal initiative? If not, please check out our weekly newsletter where a link is provided. You can place your order, make your payment, and collect your mask. Payments can be made at the college or via online banking. We wish to extend a heartfelt thank you for all donations received thus far. However, we aren't finished yet. We still need your help. Please assist us with the prize donation drive. Feel free to check with your core group member or reach out to any member of the executive. We need your support. And as we close, we say to our principal, vice principal, teachers, support staff, our PTA president and its executive, in the midst of many challenges, we really do appreciate your time and dedication in getting the job done. Our parent body will partner with you to ensure we all succeed. To our QRC parent family, thank you very much for participating in this forum. You are a major stakeholder and your input is always important. Parents and guardians, take some time to sit, chat, and listen to your young men. You'll be surprised by their level of intellect. Find out how they feel about the reopening of school. On behalf of the PTA executive, I do hope we were able to answer as much questions as possible to alleviate some of your fears and concerns. We await further guidelines from the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health as we progress. Remember, things are not normal, so we ask for your patience and commitment as we seek to regain some level of normalcy in this academic term. Any further information or clarity needed, please feel free to contact the college, your dean or your core group member, and we will seek to have your concerns addressed. Thank you, and do have an enjoyable evening, everyone.
Just before you totally take the opportunity as well to say thank you to the PTA for the support that you have provided. And I want to urge all of our parents, as well as a message being sent to me in the management team as well, that the PTA puts out a really, I wouldn't even call it a newsletter, it's a really thorough examination of what is going on at the school, etc., every Sunday. I think if more parents read that document, it was obvious that some of the questions the PTA would have answered in that document. So I'm urging parents to ensure that they read that every Sunday. It's sent to all of you. If you are not getting it, then make contact with the PTA so that you will be on the contact list. But I want to end by saying thank you for giving of your time as well, and the wonderful job that the PTA continues to do. So thank you very much.
On behalf of the PTA executives, we say thank you. Good night, everyone, and Magnum QRC.